And welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show, ladies and gentlemen. And yesterday, if you logged on to the Drudge Report, you saw the headline about a Wall Street advisor recommending guns and ammo for protection in case of a financial collapse in this country. And, of course, it was quite a shock in and of itself, but you mix the fact that the stock market in this country is at record levels. And joining us right now is the man who made that statement, John David Marotta, Wall Street expert, financial advisor, and Forbes contributor. Hi, David.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, please. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. You were the talk of the of more than the town yesterday. So tell the folks exactly what you were warning against, or what you might be, foreseeing in our future here.
Yeah, what's funny about the blog post is that it was part 5 in a 7-part series on is there a coming financial apocalypse? And a lot of our clients are worried about the laws that are being made up, and the NSA spying, and the TSA spying, and the wealth distribution, and the entitlements, and the growing deficit. And a lot of them receive, like I do, a fair number of videos and emails about the coming financial crash. And it's always nigh, and it's always imminent, and it always includes bad financial advice. So we took one of the popular videos, and we took the 7 things it recommended, and we wrote an article on each one. And number 5 was, their recommendation was to store food, water, and firearms. And I thought what I wrote was a very reasonable article to say, firearms may be on the list, but they're after 24 other things that you should have. And being prepared for the end of the world makes you better prepared for the things that are not the end of the world, that are much more likely to happen.
Well, absolutely. And in this day and age, whether it's the electric grid, whether it's a hurricane, whether it's a ice storm, as we're seeing in parts of this country and Canada, people for a week without electricity, absolutely. I think it's good advice for anybody to give to anybody, to be prepared. But when someone like you, speaks, someone who's also the president of Marotta Wealth Management speaks, people listen. And when you talk about, the economy, things coming together that could result in severe economic problems for this country, people listen. So let's focus on that right now. We're riding high, as I said, if you consider the stock market a barometer, although poll out today shows 75% of Americans think the economy stinks. So where are we, and where do you believe we're headed?
Well, it's certainly true that there are a number of things that are worrying the economy, and I think it was Nassim Taleb who said, the author of The Black Swan, who said, the things you really need to worry about are the ones you don't see coming. So it's always possible that an unknown is what you really need to be worried about and prepared for, and it's very difficult to prepare for it if you don't know what it is. But the general decline of the economy is probably not going to result in a precipitous crash. It will probably result in a long-term decline, like a European malaise. But the growing disincentives in the economy to produce anything, and the growing incentives to make people unemployed, and to burden the youth with the aging boomers' health care, is unfortunately driving a lot of despair into young people who supported this administration and thought that they would do things that would make it get better. And unfortunately, the exact opposite has happened. So at least here in Virginia, the University of Virginia graduates are coming out, and they're finding it a hard time to actually get employment, and especially to get full-time employment. And so if you have a youth that's being burdened with taxes and is having a hard time getting a job, then you get the kinds of social unrest that we've seen in Europe, in Greece, and in France, and in other countries, where the youth are just saying, look, we want something to be done about it, and we want something to be done for us. So that's the kind of social unrest that you could get precipitously in various parts of the country. You already see in Detroit, you see there's not a whole lot of civility, because there's not a whole lot of social services of what is essential for government to do to just keep everything in place.
We're talking to David Marotta, and here on the Steve Malzberg Show, he is Wall Street advisor, president of Marotta Wealth Management. Okay, what worries you the most? I mean, you talk about the things you're describing. You talk about the disincentive to work, and you're talking about socialism, and I think the policies of this administration, which have been pretty constant from the beginning and haven't changed, even though the results have not been anything to write home about at all. So what worries you the most? Is it the fact that people are leaving the workforce? Is it that interest rates are going up? Is it what do you see as the one or two major warning signs that have you concerned?
Well, we work with about 40% of small business owners, so I feel like we've got our finger on the pulse of small business owners, which are only about 5% of the population, but they make up a large share of our wealth management practice. And one thing people don't realize is the rich don't need to work. They could just close up all their businesses and say, forget it. None of the incentives are in place. I'm going to go John Galt, and I'm just not going to work anymore because they've made all the incentives so that I actually don't get enough of my pie. And our average small business owner is looking, I mean, last year they had a bullseye painted on their forehead, and this year they're looking at taxes that they have to pay an additional $120,000 in taxes. That's just an average small business owner. And those taxes have to come from somewhere. And we talk a lot about trickle-down economics, but we never talk about trickle-down taxation. Because when that tax hits a small business owner, they will put it on employees and they will put it on consumers because they can't just pay it themselves and continue to run their businesses. And when you put it on employees and consumers, you end up not taxing the productive necessarily, but you end up taxing the middle class and the lower class as well. So Obamacare is certainly the worst legislation in the last 75 years. It was a bad idea, poorly implemented, and it is one of the factors that's supposed to make business better that's really made business a lot worse.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. And something we often talk about, David, and we only have a minute, is uncertainty. And all the uncertainty created by Obamacare, created by regulations and the threat of regulations towards small businesses and even big businesses alike, that has to be a concern. It's always been a concern under this administration, correct?
It's true, and this administration has put more disincentives into place for the economy, and it's made the economy much more fragile because it's not structured in order to be able to take shocks. And I think it was Milton Friedman who said when the person who pays for something decides if it's going to be purchased and benefits from it are not all the same person, then you have a fragile system. And what you need to do is to build infragility, unfragile system.
Right.
So that they can actually take shocks like that and they have disincentive.
But all in all, you still advise people get that ammunition and guns if they can, right?
I think they should get the 24 things beforehand first. But yes, if you need food at least in this area of Charlottesville, we have deer in our yard every day.
David Marotta, thank you so much. Wall Street Advisor, President Marotta Wealth Management. Appreciate it. Have a happy New Year.
Thank you.
On the Steve Malzberg Show.